The bride stands up to in-laws' shocking ultimatum about the wedding venue and changes everything. Lucy stepped into the sun-dappled streets of her hometown, her heart pounding with a mix of nostalgia and excitement. The smell of freshly baked bread wafted through the air from the bakery where she'd spent countless afternoons. The vibrant colors of the flowers blooming in windowsills mirrored her mood. But that joy began to wilt when she thought of the weekend ahead. Finalizing her wedding plans should have been blissful, but she couldn't shake the knot tightening in her chest. It wasn't long before her fiancé's family weighed in. They met in an expansive, marble-floored parlor in their grand estate. The place was a monument to wealth. Tall windows framed in gold, chandeliers glimmering like stars, portraits of stern ancestors lining the walls. It felt cold and uninviting, filled with whispers of dark secrets waiting to be uncovered. As Lucy looked around, the history seeped in. "You wouldn't want to lose our support, would you?" Lucy swallowed hard. "But our vision was—" "Your vision," a stern voice interrupted. His father, towering and imposing, leaned forward. "Our family deserves the best. It's only proper for our son." The room echoed with the murmurs of agreement from the others, eyes darting between Lucy and her fiancé. Panic surged through her. She felt small and powerless, as if the walls were closing in. "It's supposed to be my wedding too," she shouted, her hands trembling, gripping the edge of her chair. The silence that followed was thick as fog, everyone's expressions frozen in shock. Lucy had stepped into a web of expectations, tangled with her own family's history. They were once close to the wealthy clan, a dark cloud of betrayal hanging over their past that now beckoned to be uncovered. She felt a shiver run across her spine. What if her family's secrets were within those walls? "Accept it or risk losing everything," his mother continued, her icy gaze piercing through the silence. The ultimatum surged like a tidal wave, and Lucy felt her heart racing, the weight of it all crashing down. Just when the tension became unbearable, her phone buzzed. It was a message, cryptic and unwelcome. "You don't know everything. Betrayal runs deep." Her breath caught in her throat. The words felt like a dagger twisting in her gut. She glanced at her fiancé, his face a mask of confusion, barely hiding his discomfort. The crossroads loomed before her, each path leading into shadows. What family loyalty really meant was becoming a haunting question. And as she contemplated her next move, curiosity and dread coiled within her. "Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their S. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact." As Lucy's breath caught in her throat, her mind raced, trying to untangle the threads of loyalty and desire. The weight of the ultimatum hung over her like a storm cloud. She looked at her fiancé, searching for a glimmer of support, but his eyes revealed a mix of confusion and concern. The tension in the room was suffocating. Then her phone buzzed again, shattering the silence. She glanced down, her heart pounding. The message read, "Meet me at the old oak tree. It's time to know the truth." The air thickened with uncertainty as fear twisted in her gut. Who could it be? And what truth could possibly unravel the fabric of this moment? "Lucy!" his mother's voice sliced through her thoughts. "We're waiting!" Lucy felt the cold sweat trickle down her back. Did she dare defy them? The thought of her dream wedding slipping away clawed at her. But deep down, the urge to understand what lay beneath the surface surged. Something was very wrong here. a secret too heavy to continue ignoring. "Wait," she finally said, her voice quivering with determination. "I'll think about it." It felt like a lie, but she needed time. "Time? You'll regret wasting it," his father scoffed, his tone mocking. The others nodded, whispering amongst themselves, their disappointment palpable. Ignoring them, Lucy's mind was already elsewhere. The old oak tree, her secret escape since childhood. As a girl, it was her haven, and now it felt like a portal to answers. She glanced at the clock, heart racing. Maybe it was time to confront whatever darkness lurked in her family's past. With a shaky breath, Lucy excused herself. "I need some air." As she stepped out, the cool breeze whispered against her skin, refreshing yet unsettling. She walked quickly, determination propelling her forward. The oak stood tall at the end of the street, its branches stretched wide, a symbol of strength. When she arrived, the tree loomed overhead, its leaves rustling in the evening wind. It felt familiar and foreign all at once. She spotted a figure leaning against the trunk, familiar yet unexpected. "Lucy," a voice called out from the shadows. It was her estranged sister, Emma. "Emma?" The shock reverberated through her. They hadn't spoken in years. What was she doing here? "I came to warn you," Emma said, stepping closer, urgency etched on her face. "You have to know the truth about their family. It's worse than you think." Before she could finish, a loud crash echoed in the distance, breaking their moment. It was the sickening sound of metal against metal. Lucy turned, eyes wide. A car plowed through the street, careening towards them. "Get down!" Emma yelled, pulling Lucy out of harm's way. The world felt like it slowed. The vehicle blurred against reality as it hurtled forward. The impact was thunderous, sending vibrations through Lucy's bones. She barely registered the screams that followed, or the moaning engine as the chaos unfolded. Dazed, Lucy turned to Emma, who had thrown herself protectively over her. "Are you okay?" she gasped. But Emma suddenly froze, her gaze fixed on something behind Lucy. The color drained from her face. "You need to run. Now." Before Lucy could ask what was happening, she caught a glimpse of figures emerging from the shadows behind Emma. Familiar faces, the ones she'd just argued with. The in-laws were here, and they weren't alone. "Lucy!" her mother-in-law barked. "We have to talk now. This is family business." The words sliced through the air, heavy with implications. Family business. The world around Lucy twisted, the ground beneath her feet shifting as everything she thought she knew unraveled. The stakes had just skyrocketed, and she suddenly felt very small, trapped in a web of danger and secrets she was only beginning to understand. "Lucy, you need to trust me," Emma urged, fear mingling in her tone. The looming threat of the approaching figures felt like an electric charge. A promise of chaos. Lucy stood, torn and breathless, the future stretching out dark and uncertain. What truth awaited her? What danger lurked in the shadows? The night had only just begun to unveil its mysteries, and Lucy could feel the weight of her— "Lucy, this isn't a joke!" Her mother-in-law's sharp tones sliced through the air. "We need to talk." "Talk? Now?" Lucy said, incredulous. "You just tried to dictate my wedding." "Enough!" Emma shouted, her voice firm. "You need to listen to me, Lucy. Now isn't the time to argue." Then, in a flash, everything exploded. A loud crack echoed from behind her. Lucy turned in a panic, just as one of the figures, a brother-in-law she barely knew, lunged forward, brandishing an envelope. The sight sent dread spiraling in her stomach. "In this you'll find everything," he shouted. The envelope flew past her, almost in slow motion, splattering against the dirt at her feet. Emma turned to Lucy, desperation clawing at her voice. "Don't read it here. But curiosity pulled at Lucy, making her hesitate. She crouched down, every pulse in her body pounding as she focused on the envelope. What is this? Just as she reached for it, the ground rumbled again. The figures behind her were closing in, their expressions faceless against the dim light. Her future in-laws were closing ranks, and their tension felt electric. Then it happened. A blinding flash, an explosion of sound. A car roared into the scene, tires screeching, barely missing the old oak tree. The scene shattered into chaos as bystanders screamed, and the car crashed not far from them, metal crunching and echoing across the street. "Run!" Emma yelled, pulling Lucy away, forcing her to turn. The danger escalated, and as they stumbled back, Lucy's gaze locked onto the envelope one last time, curiosity igniting. The truth! "Go!" Emma urged, her voice strained, knowing the danger loomed closer. But just before they could escape, a heavy hand landed on Lucy's shoulder. She spun around, adrenaline rushing, her breath hitching. The family patriarch stood there, grim-faced. "You think you can choose sides? You're still a part of this family, no matter what you feel. We will protect you, even from yourself." The weight of his words sank into Lucy's gut, and for a fleeting moment, she felt the power dynamics shift. Her family stood behind her, poised as spiritual warriors, while the weight of hidden histories pressed against her. Was she really protected? Or were they pulling her further into a web she couldn't escape? Suddenly, another loud shout echoed as the brother-in-law, now stumbling towards them, clutched a bloodied hand to his side. "Lucy, you have to hear me!" His voice was panicked, almost desperate. "I didn't mean for any of this." Before he could finish, a different figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the dim light. It was her father. His face was strained, eyes wide with urgency. "Lucy, listen to Emma. The truth will destroy everything you thought you knew." Dread pooled in Lucy's stomach. The chaos enveloped her, yet everything around her slowed down. "What truth? What did you hide?" she stammered, grip tightening on Emma's arm, her heart racing. "Your mother, she—" But the words caught in his throat as sirens wailed in the distance, and just like that, everything spiraled. The brother-in-law staggered, grabbing at the air, his eyes glazed with horror. "No, you don't understand!" A gasp erupted from the crowd, eyes widening in shock. Police arrived, lights spinning into the darkness. The moment hung heavy, the atmosphere charged with unanswered questions. Lucy felt the world crashing down, her mind reeling. Her family, loyalties, and even her wedding plans all felt like fragile illusions teetering on the brink of unraveling. "Lucy!" Emma cried again, pulling her back to the present. "We have to go!" And as the sirens echoed louder, Lucy's heart sank. What did she really want? The truth felt more dangerous than she had ever imagined. Uncertainty swirled around her as the past and future collided. In that moment, she knew nothing would ever be the same again. Lucy's heart raced as chaos swirled around her. Her mother-in-law's voice echoed, cold and demanding. Emma's grip on her arm was firm, urging her to flee. But before they could take a step, a heavy silence fell like a curtain. Everyone turned toward the brother-in-law, who seemed caught between panic and something deeper. His bloodied hand trembled as he staggered forward, eyes wild. "Lucy, you don't understand," he gasped, desperation tinging his words. "They'll do anything to keep it hidden. You have to believe me." "What are you talking about?" Lucy's voice edged with fear. She could feel the weight of every gaze on her, searching for answers she didn't have. Then, without warning, the brother-in-law ripped open the envelope, scattering its contents into the cold night air. Paper fluttered like wounded birds, and Lucy's breath caught in her throat as she glimpsed the documents swirling toward her. "Those papers can't just sit. You have to see," his voice broke, almost wistful. "You have to know what's at stake." But before she could reach for the papers, a loud bang shattered the stillness. A figure lunged from the shadows, angry, intent. It was her mother-in-law. "You idiot!" she shouted, rushing forward. But the brother-in-law was faster, his eyes wide with warning as he gripped the papers tighter. "Get away from her!" her mother-in-law bellowed, the venom in her voice palpable. "You're ruining everything!" Lucy's heart hammered against her ribcage, the tension pulling tight like a noose. She could see the swirling chaos around them, the police arriving, the sirens blaring. And her family was suddenly not just her family anymore. They were a faction, split by secrets. She felt the walls closing in again. "Stop!" Lucy shouted, her voice trembling, but loud enough to command attention. "All of you, what's going on?" At that moment, the loud blast from a megaphone jerked their attention toward the street. "Clear the area! Move back! This is a police situation!" The officers were advancing, lights flashing, and the scene erupted into a flurry of movement. But one figure stepped out of the chaos, and Lucy's breath hitched again. It was her father, stepping forward through the throng, his face pale as a ghost. "Lucy, it's time for the truth," he yelled, his voice cracking. Desperation etched into the lines of his face. "You need to understand. Your mother, she wanted to protect you." "Protect me? From what?" Lucy shot back, confusion taking over. But just then, the brother-in-law dropped the papers. They scattered in the wind once more, revealing unsettling images. A familiar face, Lucy's mother, side by side with someone she never recognized, smiling but with shadows lurking behind their eyes. Lucy felt cold bile creep up her throat as memories rushed forward. Old discussions about trust, about family. The crowd gasped at the sight, eyes wide as the truth hit them. Whispers raced like wildfire through them. "Is that? No way, that's impossible." "Lucy!" her father shouted again, eyes frantic. "You need to listen to me. Your mother didn't just leave us. She was forced to, and it's all tied to them." His arm shot out toward her future in-laws. "What do you mean?" Lucy's voice trembled, confusion mingling with rising dread. Before he could respond, a loud crash echoed behind them. A police van smashed into chaos, emergency lights spilling red and blue against the night. The crowd recoiled, and Lucy felt herself jerk back into reality. Suddenly, the brother-in-law clutched at his side, pale and shaking. "You won't believe the things they've done. The truth is," but his voice wavered, eyes rolling back as he collapsed to the ground. Panic erupted. Someone screamed. The officers advanced, but they were too late. The scene spiraled like a whirlwind. Lucy's stomach dropped, uncertainty clawing at her insides. Families were cracking, loyalties shifting, and just as everything began to fade into chaos, Lucy caught a glimpse of something glinting next to the brother-in-law. A small, ornate locket, half buried in the dirt. In that split second, the world around her slowed again. But this time it felt different. The locket shone bright under. Lucy reached out instinctively, but a sudden commotion erupted. Officers swarmed the area, yelling orders. Her father, face scrunched in horror, glanced between her and the gathering crowd, clearly torn. "Get the locket, Lucy," he shouted above the noise, but the urgency in his voice felt more like a warning. "Get it before they do." Frozen in place, Lucy's eyes darted between the locket on the ground and her father's frantic expression. What lay within it could change everything. And in that moment, she felt the weight of her world teeter on the brink. "Run, Lucy!" Emma shouted, tugging on her arm. But Lucy hesitated, feeling the locket's pull like a magnet. Secrets waited there, devastating ones that might shatter her entire understanding of her life. One choice, one moment, would send her to a destiny she couldn't predict. Either way, the course of her life was about to change forever. Sure, here's a new chapter continuing the story you provided, while reflecting a shared cultural understanding among English speakers. Lucy's heart raced, caught between fear and curiosity. As Emma pulled her back from the chaos, she felt the weight of the locket's significance alongside the frenzy surrounding her. The atmosphere crackled with tension. The crowd buzzed wildly, eyes darting and whispers blending into a cacophony. "Lucy, don't!" Emma shouted, urgency breaking through her fear. "We need to go!" But before Lucy could turn away, a flash of recognition hit her. The locket glinted for a heartbeat in the swirling wind, reflecting shards of light like a beacon of truth. Without thinking, she lunged for it, her fingers brushing the cool metal. Just as she grasped it, reality twisted dangerously around her. A sudden, explosive sound ripped through the air. Lucy's breath caught in her throat as the ground shook beneath her. She barely registered that a vehicle had crashed again, metal hitting metal. Then, just like that, chaos erupted. "Everyone back! Move now!" shouted an officer, but it was too late. The noise swallowed the evening, drowning them all. Unseen chaos spun out of control. Lucy felt Emma's grip shifting, and she looked up, eyes wide with fear. What's happening?" Emma's face drained of color as she looked beyond Lucy. No, we need to. Something terrible happened then. A bright flash burst from the shadows, blinding them momentarily. Lucy shielded her eyes, frantic and disoriented. The air filled with screams, and in the confusion, her vision cleared. Before her stood a figure, emerging from the pandemonium, bloodied and wild-eyed. It was her fiancé. "What are you doing here?" she gasped, confusion and desperation intertwining. "We can't risk it," he shouted over the chaos. "Your family is hiding something that goes beyond these wedding plans." His words sent a chilling wave down Lucy's spine. She felt the world tilt as layers of safety crumbled around her. Other figures emerged from the shadows, her future in-laws, eyes filled with a mix of anger and desperation. "Get her out of here," her mother-in-law commanded, voice shattering through the noise. "Lucy, listen," Emma pleaded, fear flashing across her face. "The truth?" But before she could finish, another loud bang echoed and everything froze. A heavy silence blanketed the chaos, as if time had stopped. Then came the unmistakable sound of gunshots, sharp and horrifying. Lucy's heart lunged into her throat. The crowd screamed, panic surging like wildfire. She spun around, fear igniting her instincts as she registered the sight of her brother-in-law, now standing defensively over her father, who had been caught amidst the tumult. Then, in a stunning moment, her brother-in-law staggered back, clutching his chest. The crowd gasped, a sharp intake of breath that echoed louder than the gunfire. His eyes widened in shock before he crumpled down to the ground. "Lincoln!" someone screamed, the name piercing the air in dread. Lucy's heart hammered in her chest. What just happened? She whispered, tears brimming at the corners of her eyes, a strange guttural panic washing over her. Emma turned to her, eyes wide with horror. "We have to go now. We can't stay." But Lucy stood frozen, the locket heavy in her pocket. Her thoughts twisted, everything spinning out as she began to connect the dots. The secrets, the betrayal, the danger now closing in like a storm. What did this all mean? As the police moved into the growing chaos, sirens blaring ever closer, Lucy felt the enormity of her life's choices slam into her like a tidal wave. The implications were too vast, too terrifying. And just then, as she glanced at her fiancé, the realization struck her hard. He was keeping something from her too, a secret that intertwined with hers, and it could shatter everything they had built. The tension escalated, and Lucy felt walls closing in. As sirens pierced the night, she knew that whatever path she chose next would lead her into darkness. At this moment, she had. "Choose, Lucy!" Emma shouted, yanking her back. "What do you want to do?" But Lucy could only stare out, heart pounding. The weight of each decision loomed heavy. The truth she'd fought to understand now felt like a noose tightening around her neck, and she had to break free before it was too late. Just then, her mother-in-law shouted, "Bring her back! We're not done yet!" And just as Lucy readied herself to run, the ground trembled anew. But this time she didn't just feel the shock. She saw it, a shadow slinking toward them from the edge of the chaos. Someone with intent, someone familiar. Then it hit her. The locket, the secrets, the bloody faces. It was all connected, twisting into something unimaginable. "Lucy!" Emma cried, eyes darting back. But Lucy was frozen, staring at the figure drawing closer, realizing with dread, this wasn't over. Not yet. The night was far from finished, and as Lucy stood trapped between worlds, she felt the ominous shadows closing in, ready to consume her truth and everything around her. Lucy felt her heart pound wildly in her chest as the shadows closed in around her. Each face, once familiar, now seemed foreign and menacing. Her fiancé's gaze was filled with chaos, his body tense. The air was electric, alive with uncertainty, and she could hear her breaths coming in quick, shallow gasps. "Lucy," he began, but the word came out strained, as if he was fighting against something deeper. She stepped closer, confusion mingling with fear, desperate for answers. The world around them felt surreal. Sirens wailed, the light flashing like strobe lights in a club, illuminating the fear etched on every face surrounding her. "What did you mean?" she whispered, feeling a lump form in her throat. But before he could answer, a loud bang shattered the chaos. A gunshot or a car backfiring, she couldn't tell. The crowd reacted like a startled flock of birds. People jumped back, screams erupting, panic spreading like fire. Lucy's instinct kicked in. She grabbed Emma's hand tightly, pulling her close. "Get down," someone shouted, and the world turned to chaos again. The police pushed through the throng, ordering people to move back. Lucy's mind raced, thoughts spiraling in all directions. Then, from the edge of the scene, the familiar figure emerged again, the one who had sent her heart racing moments ago. It was her mother, her expression fraught with desperation. She was sprinting forward, weaving through the chaos, eyes fixed solely on Lucy. "Lucy!" her mother cried, urgency drenching her voice. Her hands reached out, but before Lucy could respond, another deafening sound ripped through the air. A surge of shouts erupted as an explosion burst behind her, sending everyone stumbling. A shockwave hit, knocking Lucy to the ground. The world spun. She focused on her breath, struggling to breathe amidst the dust and fear. "Lucy, get up!" Emma yelled, her voice pulling Lucy back from the edges of panic. She looked up, disoriented, and saw her mother fumbling for something in her coat. "Stop!" her mother shouted, fear threading through her voice. "You can't be here, Lucy. It's not safe." "Not safe? What are you talking about?" Lucy's voice cracked. Everything felt like a dream, but the terror was too vivid, too raw. In that moment, the brother-in-law staggered to his feet, eyes wild and hands shaking. "I have to tell you," he began. But another gunshot rang out, and time slowed. The crowd screamed, the horror palpable. Lucy turned, heart racing, and saw a figure crumbling to the ground. It took a moment for reality to sink in. The brother-in-law, gasping for breath, blood pooling around him. "No!" Lucy cried, shock washing over her. A wave of disbelief hit her hard. This wasn't just chaos, it was violence, and it was real. In that harrowing moment, her mother knelt next to him, desperately trying to help. "It's going to be okay, Lincoln. Just hold on," she yelled, voice tremoring with panic. But Lucy barely heard her mother's cries. Something unusual flickered at the corner of her vision. The locket she had momentarily forgotten was burning hot against her skin, almost like it was alive. Then, with a surge of instinct, she reached for it and opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a small photo fluttered out, and Lucy found herself staring at a picture of her mother and a man she didn't recognize, smiling and embracing, their joy stark against the growing chaos. A name scrawled on the back made her blood run cold. "Thomas." "Who is he?" she whispered, suddenly feeling unmoored, unstable. The air thickened around her, like all the truths she had chased were colliding in a furious storm. "Lucy!" Emma shouted, dragging her back into the moment. "We need to go." But before she could respond, movement caught her eye. Someone was pushing through the crowd, a woman, tall and imposing, with a smirk that painted a perfect picture of arrogance. It was her mother-in-law. "Enough of this!" she screamed, and the crowd parted as if they were made of water. She strode forward, a storm beneath her grace, confidence radiating power, eyes locking onto Lucy. "Time to face the truth," she said, and in that instant, the world shifted again. All the relationships, all the secrets, everything Lucy thought she understood, careened off the edge. A crushing realization landed like a lead weight. The man in the picture, Thomas, was not just a stranger. He was part of a deep, dark thread that connected her mother to the family, to everything collapsing around her. The room, no, the world, stilled. Lucy's heart raced. What was hidden from her? What history had been buried? "What do you mean?" she hissed, but her voice trembled, paralyzed by the enormity of the truth closing in. Right then, the chaos roared back, but Lucy couldn't move. Words lodged in her throat, and the eclipse of truth loomed over her. The scene unraveled even as questions swirled. Then she heard her own name, carried on the wind. A whisper, a warning, like a ghost echoing through the madness. "Lucy, it's not what you think." The moment felt like it stretched into eternity, and as confusion churned inside her, she wondered if she would ever truly understand the secrets that bound her fate, the bloodlines of her family entwined in shadows. The night held its breath, waiting to reveal the next layer of darkness just beneath the surface. Lucy stood there, frozen, as the moments stretched around her like a heavy fog. Panic wrapped around her throat, squeezing tighter with each heartbeat. Her mother's desperate expression, and her fiancé's fearful face echoed back at her, so much unspoken fear thrumming between them. "Lucy, it's not what you think," her mother said again, urgency marking each word. But before Lucy could peel back the layers of confusion, something unexpected happened. Suddenly, a chill raced through the crowd, a ripple of unease spreading like wildfire. The air thickened, the atmosphere charged with a sense of dread that grew heavier. Lucy felt it before she saw it. A presence, something dark and unsettling moving just beyond the edges of her vision. The noise seemed to fade into silence. All eyes turned as the shadows stretched longer, and from them emerged a man, cloaked in an aura of authority and danger. His face was mostly hidden beneath a hood, but his eyes, cold and unfeeling, seemed to pierce through the chaos. "Lucy!" he called, loud enough to cut through the crowd's whispering confusion. Every head turned to him, and the air hung thick with tension. "It's time you leer." Fear surged in her chest like fire. "Who are you?" she shouted, voice trembling despite her desperate need for strength. A flicker of recognition danced in her mind. This man was connected to everything, the secrets, the lies, and the past that threatened to swallow her whole. "I'm the key to everything your mother didn't want you to know," he replied, stepping closer. "Your real father was not who you think he is." The words hit her like a punch. A wave of confusion crashed over her mind. The ground beneath her felt unsteady. Her mother's face paled, eyes wide with something Lucy couldn't quite pinpoint. Fear, disbelief, remorse. "You have to be lying," she stammered, taking a step back, gripping Emma's hand for support. "My father is," but she couldn't finish. Doubt seeped in, clawing at her heart. "You were raised to believe a lie," the man said, voice steady and chilling. "Look at the truth that's hidden in this locket." Time seemed to stretch as he held out a hand. In his palm, the air crackled, a small device glinting darkly beneath the police lights. A flash drive? Confusion mixed with suspicion as she felt the weight of it. Suddenly, she was overwhelmed with the need to know, but also an instinct to run. Before she could decide, her mother lunged forward, a fierce protectiveness taking over. "No, don't listen to him!" she shouted, voice breaking, desperation thick in the air. "Just ignore him, Lucy!" But her mother's panic only stoked the fires of curiosity raging inside her. Something vital lay on the line, something that could fracture everything she believed. "Why should I?" Lucy asked, defiance rising. "Why shouldn't I know the truth about the family I belong to?" Then, without warning, alarms blared, startling everyone present. The police were shouting again, urging people to clear the area. But in the midst of the chaos, something in Lucy shifted. It felt like a switch had flipped. "I have to know!" she yelled, nearly choking on the words. Her heart drummed wildly as she realized she was ready to uncover whatever lay hidden behind the veil of her family's past. And with a swift motion, she snatched the flash drive from the man's hand, her fingers wrapping tightly around it. A gasp rippled through the crowd. "No!" her mother cried, panic morphing into frantic desperation. "Lucy, don't! You don't know what you're getting into!" she begged, eyes wide and pleading. But Lucy's mind was already made up. The man smirked, dark satisfaction etched across his face. "Let the truth set you free, Lucy." Just then, in one earth-shattering moment, bright lights and a deafening noise erupted from the shadows. A figure darted into view, gun raised, chaos crashing down all around them. "Drop it, now!" came a booming voice, heavy with authority. Lucy's heart lurched as everything spun. Emotions twisted painfully inside her. But the truth hung heavy in the air, a boulder waiting to drop. And just like that, the ground shook beneath her. Sirens blared while her world fractured into shards of confusion and chaos. She was standing on the edge of a cliff, but she didn't know if the truth would save her or plunge her into darkness. "Lucy!" Emma shouted, pulling her back, but the urgency in her voice was drowned out by the shouts and echoing chaos. Even as she looked back, Lucy knew one thing for sure. The secrets were leading her somewhere she could never return from. Lucy stood at the center of chaos, heart hammering in her chest. The officer's voice echoed around her, but all she could hear was the pounding of her own heart. She felt Emma's grip tighten, pulling her back toward safety. But Lucy couldn't move. The flash drive felt heavy in her hand, a promise and a curse. "Lucy, please!" Emma shouted, desperation spilling from her voice. The shadows were closing in, and the figures of her family loomed, shifting closer. But then, the air itself seemed to vibrate with tension. The cloaked man stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Your family has lied to you for years, Lucy. You have every right to know." But before he could say another word, a sudden loud crack split the air. A deafening explosion rocked the street, sending Lucy flying backward. She landed on the ground, dazed. Dust and debris rained down around her, the world collapsing into confusion. The crowd screamed, faces filled with shock. "Lucy, get up!" Emma cried, frantically helping her to her feet. Shock waves reverberated through Lucy's body as she staggered. Then she saw him. Her brother-in-law, still bleeding, had pushed himself off the ground. But now an unfamiliar look crossed his face, one of grim determination. "Lucy, you have to know," he shouted, sounding urgent. "It's not just about the locket. It's about—" "Shut him up!" the mother-in-law roared, her face twisted in anger. The crowd buzzed with confusion. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the onlookers. Lucy's heart pounded against her ribs. She was torn between rising dread and an insatiable urge to uncover the truth. "Tell me!" she yelled, her voice fierce, cutting through the chaos. Just then, her brother-in-law's eyes widened in horror. "Lucy, they've been hiding." But before he could finish, another booming explosion echoed, this time from the direction of the police, who were struggling to keep control of the escalating scene. Suddenly, figures came crashing through the line of officers, armed and shouting. Lucy froze. Terror gripped her heart. What is happening? Gunfire erupted, and panic spread like wildfire. The loud, echoing shots rang out, a sharp reminder of the danger lurking just outside her perception. The world shrank down to just moments and sounds, adrenaline flooding her veins. Amidst the chaos, Lucy's eyes caught the cloaked figure darting toward her and Emma. "You need to listen," he called, but she could barely comprehend his words through the clamor. Then, from somewhere behind her, came a painful scream. Lucy turned just in time to see her mother crumple to the ground, clutching her chest. "Mom!" Lucy shouted, this time panic crashing through her like wave after wave. Tears streamed down her face, and she stumbled toward her mother, instinct driving her forward. But the space closed in around her. The gunshots continued, each one echoing against her shared memories. Lucy could barely see through the growing dust and darkness. Her breath caught, and for a brief moment, everything felt unreal, as if the universe had turned completely upside down. Then, the unthinkable occurred. A figure rushed forward, arms outstretched. It was her father. He broke through the throng, scattering people aside. "Lucy, get down!" he screamed, his voice ripping through her consciousness. The world slowed to make room for the truth opening inside her. She locked eyes with her father. Something flickered behind his gaze. It was fear. Real fear. She saw him reach toward her, his own hands trembling. In that moment, every instinct told her to run. But then it happened. A bright flash exploded in front of her, blinding and overwhelming. Lucy felt her heart stop as everything fell silent. The warmth around her vanished, replaced by a piercing stillness. When the light faded, she saw him, the man from the picture. Thomas, standing as if from a dream, merging into the chaos. "Lucy, you're not who you think you are," he declared, his voice echoing like thunder. The words crashed over her, heavy and dark. The weight of everything she understood shattered into pieces. "What do you mean?" she breathed, the words feeling foreign. "Yes," he continued, stepping closer. "You were never meant to be here." Before she could respond, a blast erupted from behind him. Lucy felt her chest tighten. The world spun with uncertainty as panic resumed its previous fervor. "Next, they will come for you," Thomas warned, his voice urgent. And suddenly, everything turned murky. Family, loyalties, truths, they all hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of revelation. Lucy felt her entire life flash before her eyes. The past was unraveling, but instead of clear answers, only more questions filled her mind. As the dust settled, she stood at a precipice, conflicted. Did she dare to dig deeper? Was she ready for what lay beneath the surface? Fire filled her heart. And in that moment, she knew this was just the beginning. Lucy stood at the crossroads of chaos and confusion, the sizzling tension in the air wrapping around her like a thick fog. Her pulse raced, each heartbeat a reminder of everything she had lost and everything she might uncover. She locked eyes with her father, searching for answers, yet feeling only the silence draping over them like a shroud. The cloaked man waited, the weight of his last words hanging heavy in the void. "You were never meant to be here," echoed in her mind, twisting the knife of uncertainty deeper. Just as she struggled to grasp the reality of his claim, the world shifted again. A loud crack, the sound of shattering glass, pierced through the cacophony around them. It came from behind her. Lucy turned to see shards of a window raining down. A flash of red and blue lights reflecting off the jagged pieces scattered like confetti. And then it happened. A figure burst through the crowd, panic spilling from her. How? Lucy's thoughts spiraled as he darted toward them, blood still staining his shirt, dripping onto the pavement. You were shot! What are you doing here? Lucy! His voice was hoarse yet urgent. "You have to listen to me. They're coming for you." Before he could explain, another explosion of sound erupted, this time from the police. "Get back! Clear the scene!" officer shouted, pushing people aside. In the turmoil, the cloaked man stepped backward, his face shifting into a mask of anger as he raised a hand. "No!" he shouted, and it felt like an incantation. Just then, a black SUV barreled onto the scene, tires screeching against the asphalt. Lucy barely had time to comprehend what was happening when the vehicle slammed to a halt and the door swung open. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the chaos. "Get in!" a voice bellowed. It was Thomas. What? Lucy was torn, confusion warring against the instinct to flee. She glanced at Emma, whose eyes were wide, filled with disbelief. But before she could respond, Lincoln staggered forward. "You can't trust him. It's a trap." His voice held a weight of conviction, a warning hurriedly spilling from his lips. "I don't need to hear any more lies," Lucy shouted, her voice fighting against the noise of chaos. The urgency of her heart was pushing her to make a choice, though every instinct told her to run. Then came that moment, a split second that changed everything. A sharp crack sliced through the air. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Lucy turned, every nerve in her body on fire, and there he was. The cloaked figure, now shedding a layer of mystery, stepped into the direct light. "Enough of this!" he roared, and in an instant, the atmosphere shifted. The sight left Lucy gasping. The cloaked figure stripped off the hood. Beneath was a face she recognized all too well, a face she had once loved, trusted, and believed in. It was her mother. "Mom?" The words slipped from her lips, barely a whisper, disbelief blotting out everything. The crowd froze, shock rippling through the air like a wave crashing on the shore. "Lucy!" her mother exclaimed, stepping forward. "You don't understand." "How could you?" Lucy's heart shattered. every emotion crashing together in a storm of betrayed loyalty and love. Everything she fought for, fought against, felt like a lie, collapsing before her. "Mom, what's happening? You're one of them?" But before her mother could respond, a piercing scream cut through the chaos. Emma fell to the ground, a sudden, violent collapse. "Emma!" Lucy screamed. Her world spun violently, every thread unraveling. She knelt beside her friend, trembling, fear rippling through her veins. "Lucy," Emma gasped, face pale. I can't." Panic rose. Time felt suspended as whispers erupted from the witnesses around them, eyes wide with shock. Then, in that dizzying moment, Lincoln grabbed Lucy's arm, his eyes dark with fear. "We have to go, now." "Why?" Lucy's throat tightened. Her heart, unable to comprehend the chaos unraveling. "What's going on?" "I'll explain everything," Lincoln promised, urgency flooding his voice. "But we're not safe yet." And as he pulled her away, Lucy glanced back at her mother. 100 thoughts raced through her mind. By the look on her mother's face, the fear and determination, everything she knew felt turned upside down. "Where are you going?" her mother called, voice edged with desperation. "You don't know the whole story." Fear gripped Lucy. She stumbled, torn. Everything had shifted in an instant. Friends, family, enemies. Who could she trust? Then the ground trembled beneath them. The SUV roared to life, but another explosion echoed. A flash of flames erupted behind them, crowds scattering in fear. The shockwave knocked Lucy forward, disorienting her. "Get in!" Lincoln yelled, urgency pressing against the chaos. With her heart pounding like a drum, she realized the truth. There was no way out, not without answers, not without knowing the darkest secrets that connected them all. And as she finally climbed into the SUV, the whole world seemed to shimmer with uncertainty, life hanging by a thread. What lay ahead was unknown, and the darker shadows whispered their secrets, promising that more was yet to come. Lucy barely registered her surroundings as she stumbled into the SUV beside Lincoln, the chaos still swirling outside like a storm. Her heart hammered, every thump echoing the fear that pulsed through her veins. Emma slid in next to her, eyes wide, breath quick. The SUV roared to life, the engine revving in protest against the madness outside. "Drive!" Lincoln shouted to the driver, urgency crackling in the air. Lucy's mind raced, snapshots of blood, chaos, and her mother's desperate expression flickering through her tea. What had just happened? What did it all mean? The driver pressed the accelerator, tires squealing as they tore away from the scene. Lucy turned, glancing back at the chaos, the crowd now a swirl of confusion and fear. She could still feel the weight of the locket in her pocket, its secrets ready to unravel everything. They sped down the street, sirens wailing in the distance. The adrenaline coursing through her limbs felt electric, yet her mind was a whirlwind of chaos. "What just happened back there?" she gasped, looking at Lincoln. "You were shot! You shouldn't be here!" "It's a long story," he replied, voice low and strained. "I'll explain everything, but we have to get somewhere safe first." Before she could respond, the tension in the vehicle thickened. Emma leaned forward, urgency etched on her face. "We need to know the truth. About our family. About everything." Lucy nodded, heart racing in agreement, but fear gnawed at the edges of her resolve. What if the truth was worse than she imagined? The driver turned onto a dark alley, the streetlights flickering above. It felt like they were disappearing into shadows, racing from more than just the physical chaos. They were fleeing from the truth that threatened to consume them. Just then, a plosive boom echoed behind them. The SUV jerked, and the world spun once more. Smoke billowed into the air, an explosion from the scene they had just left. "Go! Go!" Lincoln shouted, panic rising in his voice. But before the driver could push the gas, the vehicle jolted to a stop. Lucy's heart dropped as a figure appeared in front of the SUV, a silhouette cloaked in darkness. He stepped closer, slow and deliberate, a sinister smirk creeping across his face. "Looks like you've made some enemies, Lucy," he taunted, voice smooth yet laced with malice. Fear gripped her. It was too familiar, the same voice she heard echoing from the shadows back at the estate. If he was here, they were in deeper trouble than she thought. "Who are you?" she yelled, feeling her pulse quicken. "I'm your past, Lucy," he sneered, stepping into the light. Her breath caught in her throat. It was Thomas, her mother's supposed ally, the one who knew everything and had used the chaos to cloak his intentions. "Your mother may have kept you safe from the truth, but it looks like the truth is about to catch up," he said, eyes glinting with dark amusement. Just then, the ground shook beneath them. The entire SUV rocked violently, as if a bomb had detonated nearby. Lucy grabbed Emma's arm, their fear palpable. Then, in an instant, everything cracked open. A surge of bright light filled the alley, blinding and explosive. Lucy squeezed her eyes shut, a blaring noise filling her ears. It was as if the world was crumbling apart. When she dared to open her eyes again, Thomas was gone. But the atmosphere shifted. A silence fell over the chaos, and the air felt heavy with dread. And then came the whisper, creeping over the thick silence, brushing against her mind. "You don't know everything." The world around them transformed. Shadows swirled and coalesced before Lucy's eyes. Emotions twisted, fears played out in a cruel loop. Then, just when she thought the chaos might recede, Lincoln turned to her, face pale, and said, "Lucy, I know who you really are." Those words hit like a blow, a punch that left her gasping for breath. Everything she believed shifted beneath her. "What?" she breathed, grasping at the edges of her reality. "What do you mean?" He leaned closer, urgency pouring from him, yet fear marred his features, laden with unspoken truths. "You're connected to them, to everything, in a way you can't imagine." Lucy opened her mouth to respond, but the world tilted again, her mind spinning. "What are you—" Boom! Another explosion rocked the vehicle, the echo louder, sharper. It felt like a cacophony of blurred truths and painful revelations crashing around her. "Get out!" Emma screamed, pushing her toward the door. As they scrambled, Lucy's mind raced, heart thundering. "What do you mean connected?" she shot back desperately, struggling to process the weight of his words. But they barely had a moment to escape before the air itself seemed to explode. In that instant, everything froze. The ground shook as a shadow loomed close. A figure appeared, yet it wasn't Thomas or her mother. "I'm your sister," she stated bluntly, her eyes cold and fierce. Lucy's breath hitched. The realization hit hard, stunning her into silence. Then everything shattered. The world faded into chaos, uncertainty wrapping around her like a dark shroud. What relationship had she really known? Who was she truly? And just like that, the ground beneath her felt like quicksand. Lucy's heart raced, questions twisting viciously in her mind. Would she ever understand the truth? Or would she lose everything all over again?